The Amish have developed and perfected various techniques for preserving food without the use of electricity. And one of the most surprising and effective methods is the preservation of eggs using lime water. This method, which allows eggs to be stored for long periods without refrigeration, has been used for generations as a practical solution to ensure the supply of fresh eggs throughout the year, even when the hens are not laying, such as in winter. The process of soaking eggs in lime water is a traditional technique that has been used for centuries to preserve eggs and extend their shelf life without the need for refrigeration. This practice is based on the property of lime, or calcium hydroxide, which has the ability to seal the small pores of the eggshell. Eggshells, although they appear solid, have numerous tiny pores that allow gas exchange. These pores are potential entry points for air and bacteria, which can accelerate egg spoilage. When eggs are submerged in lime water, the calcium hydroxide reacts with the surface of the shell, creating a kind of coating that acts as a physical barrier. This seal is very effective in reducing the amount of oxygen that can enter the egg, which in turn slows down the aging process. In addition, it prevents the entry of pathogenic microorganisms that could cause the egg to decompose and contaminate its interior. This technique is particularly useful in rural contexts or in areas where access to refrigeration is limited or non-existent. In the past, it was common for families who owned chickens to use lime water to keep their eggs fresh during the months when the hens laid less, such as in the winter. By keeping the eggs submerged, they could prolong freshness for several months without refrigeration. The use of lime water not only protects eggs from bacteria, but also helps preserve the internal structure of the egg. Over time, a fresh egg begins to lose moisture through the pores in the shell, causing the white to become more liquid and the yolk to lose its firmness. By sealing the pores, moisture loss is significantly reduced, which helps maintain egg quality for a longer period. It should be noted that this technique must be carried out with care to prevent lime from entering the egg, as an excess could alter the flavor. The lime water must be prepared in an appropriate proportion, and the eggs must be handled with delicacy to avoid cracks in the shell that allow water to enter. This technique not only reflects the ingenuity of food preservation practices before the advent of modern technologies such as refrigeration, but also highlights the importance of natural and simple methods to maintain the freshness and quality of food. The mineral oil used for this purpose must be food grade, which ensures that it does not contain impurities or substances harmful to health. To apply the oil, the eggs must be completely clean and dry. Then proceed to rub a very thin layer of oil over the entire surface of the shell, making sure to cover all the pores. This coating reduces the exchange of gases between the inside of the egg and the external environment, helping to preserve its internal humidity and slowing down the aging process. This method has several advantages. First, it is economical and requires very few materials, since only mineral oil is needed, which is usually available at a low cost and can be stored for long periods without losing its properties. In addition, the application of oil is simple and does not require special skills or sophisticated equipment. For these reasons, it is an accessible technique that the Amish prefer to use, especially since it fits with their philosophy of self-sufficiency and sustainability. The oil coating also has the ability to protect the egg against bacteria such as salmonella. Since the main risk of bacterial contamination comes from the outside, sealing the shell with oil acts as a physical barrier that significantly reduces the risk of infection. By sealing the shell, not only is the entry of air limited, but also of any other pathogen that may be present in the environment. However, it is important that the eggs used for this process are fresh and without cracks, as any crack could allow oil to enter the egg and alter its quality. The Amish have perfected the use of methods like this because of their focus on life without electricity or modern devices. In Amish communities, agricultural life follows seasonal rhythms, and egg production is not always constant throughout the year. It is common for eggs to accumulate during certain periods of lower production, and the mineral oil method helps to store these eggs for longer, preventing them from being wasted. Eggs treated in this way can be kept fresh for several months if stored in a cool, dark place, typical conditions of traditional Amish pantries. In addition to its effectiveness, the use of mineral oil for egg preservation has the advantage that it does not change the taste or texture of the egg, which is ideal for later consumption. This practice has also been adapted and extended beyond the Amish community, especially in the context of current movements that promote food self-sufficiency and waste reduction. Those interested in storage practices that do not depend on refrigeration have adopted this method, as an alternative to ensure the freshness of eggs at home. Another important aspect is the connection between these methods and the Amish philosophy of living in harmony with nature and minimizing dependence on external sources. Greasing eggs with mineral oil reflects their pragmatic approach to making use of simple solutions that take advantage of accessible resources and require the least possible impact on the environment. The Amish avoid advanced technologies, not only for religious reasons, but also because they believe in self-sufficiency as a fundamental value of their community. This type of technique allows Amish families to preserve food and prepare for the future without resorting to electrical systems, maintaining their food autonomy. Thus, this preservation method based on the use of mineral oil stands out as a practice that, although simple, is highly effective and remains in force in communities that prioritize self-sufficiency. In addition, it serves as a reminder of the usefulness of traditional preservation methods that, although they may seem rudimentary compared to modern technologies, fulfill their functions efficiently and in tune with the resources offered by nature. Vinegar is another method that the Amish use in their life. This approach is based on the antibacterial properties of vinegar, an acetic acid that helps prevent the growth of microorganisms on the surface of eggs, thus ensuring a longer shelf life. Being a natural method free of chemical preservatives, it aligns with the principles of simple and healthy living of the Amish community. This process involves submerging the eggs in a vinegar solution for a specific period of time. The acidity of the vinegar partially breaks down the calcium carbonate in the shell, creating a layer that acts as a protective barrier against external contaminants. In addition, this barrier helps minimize the porosity of the shell, reducing the entry of air and microorganisms into the egg. As a result, eggs can be kept for a considerably longer period without the need for refrigeration, which is an advantage in communities where electricity is limited or not used. Another benefit of using vinegar is its ability to balance the pH of the shell. Vinegar has properties that not only inhibit the proliferation of bacteria, but also protect the interior of the egg from possible variations in its composition that could shorten its shelf life. For the Amish, who tend to store large quantities of food for the harshest months of the year, this method is an efficient and economical way to ensure a constant supply of fresh eggs. In addition, the vinegar preservation process does not significantly alter the taste of the eggs, making this method a viable and attractive option to maintain product quality. Compared to other preservation methods, such as pickling, the use of vinegar as a bath preserves the egg in its most natural state possible, something highly valued by the Amish community. A vinegar bath eliminates bacteria and creates a protective layer on the shell. When eggs are submerged in a vinegar bath, a preservation technique dating back to ancient methods is being used, in which vinegar was considered an essential tool to prolong the freshness of food. The high acidity of vinegar makes it especially effective in eliminating bacteria, as it denatures the proteins in bacterial cells, which causes their death and prevents the egg from becoming contaminated. The immersion process also has a direct effect on the eggshell. The acidity of the vinegar reacts with the calcium carbonate in the shell, dissolving a small outer layer and, at the same time, creating a smoother texture that is more resistant to future contamination. This not only protects the egg from bacteria and microorganisms present in the environment, but also reduces the possibility of fractures or cracks in the shell, which could compromise its integrity. In addition to eliminating bacteria, the chemical reaction between vinegar and the eggshell helps reduce the permeability of the shell. This reduction limits the entry of oxygen, which slows down the internal degradation processes of the egg, preserving its freshness for longer. The Amish take advantage of these benefits, as their approach to self-sufficient living involves maximizing the shelf life of fresh produce without relying on modern preservation methods, such as refrigeration. This method of egg preservation, which dates back to medieval times, is a testament to the ingenuity of ancient societies to prolong the shelf life of food without relying on modern technology. In the Middle Ages, food preservation was a constant challenge, especially in times of scarcity or during seasons when agricultural and poultry production decreased considerably. In this context, the use of lime water to preserve eggs became a key practice in many homes and farms. During the Middle Ages, eggs were a valuable source of protein, and their preservation was essential to maintain a balanced diet during the winter months when hens reduced egg laying due to low temperatures and reduced daylight hours. By soaking the eggs in lime water, peasants and farmers could ensure a safe and nutritious food source for extended periods. This was especially important for those rural communities that did not have constant access to fresh food sources. Lime itself was a relatively accessible material in medieval times. It was widely used in construction and other agricultural applications, which facilitated its availability for food preservation. The technique consisted of preparing a lime water solution and then submerging the fresh eggs in it, making sure they were completely covered. The lime adhered to the eggshell, forming a layer that blocked the entry of air and bacteria. In this way, the eggs could be kept fresh for months, often until the following spring, when the hen's production increased again. In addition to its use in preserving eggs, lime also had other important applications in medieval daily life, including use in the production of certain types of cheese and in the preparation of pickles. This shows how, in the absence of advanced technologies, people used available natural resources to find practical solutions to the challenges of food preservation. The simplicity and effectiveness of lime water in preserving eggs stand out as a remarkable example of how traditional knowledge was passed down from generation to generation, being a fundamental practice in the management of limited food resources. In later centuries, especially during the Renaissance and until the 19th century, the technique of preservation with lime water remained popular. It was especially common on family farms and in communities that did not have access to refrigeration. This practice was also taken to other parts of the world with the expansion of European colonies, adapting to local conditions and varying slightly depending on the resources available. The advent of modern refrigeration and pasteurization displaced the use of lime water and other traditional preservation methods. However, these techniques did not disappear entirely. In many parts of the world, especially in rural areas, knowledge about how to preserve food with natural methods has remained alive. In recent years, this type of practice has experienced a resurgence thanks to the growing interest in self-sufficiency, sustainability, and the preservation of ancestral culinary techniques. Although eggs appear solid on the outside, they have a shell that is covered by thousands of tiny pores. It is estimated that an eggshell contains between 7,000 and 17,000 tiny pores. These pores allow the entry of air, moisture, and eventually bacteria, which facilitates decomposition. The shell has a natural protective layer called the cuticle or bloom, which helps prevent the entry of microorganisms, but this layer can be damaged by excessive washing or rough handling of the egg. If this cuticle is damaged, the protection of the egg is compromised, allowing the entry of elements that accelerate its decomposition. Bacteria, such as Salmonella, are responsible for decomposition and also for possible health problems if the eggs are consumed in poor condition. These bacteria enter through the pores and begin to degrade the proteins inside the egg, generating unpleasant odors and changes in consistency. In addition, the entry of air also alters the internal structure of the egg. As the egg ages, the white becomes more watery and the yolk loses its rounded shape, affecting both the quality and safety of the egg. For this reason, keeping eggs at controlled temperatures, such as in the refrigerator, reduces the rate at which air and bacteria penetrate the shell. This cold storage keeps the inner membrane of the egg firmer, making it difficult for microorganisms to enter. The degradation of eggs is mainly due to the penetration of bacteria and air through the pores of the shell, which accelerates the decomposition process. The decomposition of eggs is related not only to the penetration of bacteria and air, but also to the environmental conditions to which they are exposed. In a warm, humid environment, microorganisms find ideal conditions to proliferate. The rate of decomposition can be much higher if these conditions are not properly controlled. In hot climates, it is recommended to refrigerate eggs immediately to limit bacterial growth and prolong their shelf life. An important factor in egg preservation is pH. As the egg ages, the pH of the white increases from a value close to 7.6 to alkaline levels of around 9. This occurs due to the gradual loss of carbon dioxide through the pores of the shell. This increase in pH can affect the culinary properties of the egg, such as its whipping ability. In addition, as the inner membrane of the egg becomes less effective, bacteria have an easier time entering and causing spoilage. It is interesting to note that refrigeration slows down the aging process and the loss of carbon dioxide, thus helping to keep the egg in better condition for longer. There are also methods such as coating with mineral oil, which helps seal the pores of the shell, prolonging the shelf life of the egg by preventing the entry of air and bacteria. The Amish community, known for its self-sufficient life and respect for traditional practices, has a meticulous approach to egg selection to ensure that they remain fresh and safe for consumption for long periods. They select fresh eggs, generally choosing those recently laid, as fresh eggs have a more effective protective cuticle, which has not yet been altered by external factors such as washing. Cracks in the eggshell are an entry point for bacteria, compromising the safety of the egg and making it unsuitable for long-term preservation. Therefore, the Amish inspect each egg to make sure it has no cracks or irregularities. Also, in many cases they avoid washing the eggs, or if they do, they clean them carefully so as not to remove the protective cuticle. This is particularly important, as washing eggs incorrectly can remove this natural layer and leave the egg vulnerable. As for preservation methods, the Amish use traditional techniques such as pickling or the use of water glass, a sodium silicate solution. These practices allow them to preserve eggs for several months. The use of water glass, for example, seals the eggshell, blocking the entry of air and bacteria and keeping it fresh for longer. These methods are not only effective, but also natural, which is aligned with the sustainable lifestyle of the Amish. The meticulous selection of eggs is essential. The Amish only preserve those that are in perfect condition, thus ensuring the effectiveness of their conservation methods. The preservation of eggs involves not only choosing those in good condition, but also knowing the optimal methods and conditions to ensure the durability of this food. The Amish understand that the initial quality of the eggs determines the success of any preservation technique. Even small cracks, invisible to the naked eye, can compromise the egg and make it susceptible to spoilage during the storage process. Also, the Amish are aware of the importance of storing eggs at proper temperatures. If the eggs are to be preserved without refrigeration, initial freshness is even more critical. Preservation techniques, such as coating the eggs with wax or storing them in an environment with low humidity and stable temperature, help maintain product quality. This careful selection not only prolongs the shelf life of the egg, but also ensures food safety, something essential in communities seeking to be self-sufficient and minimize waste of resources. For these reasons, the Amish approach is a valuable example of how traditional techniques and meticulous attention to quality can be the key to preserving food naturally and effectively. The debate about the safety of consuming eggs that have been preserved for long periods remains relevant to many households seeking ways to reduce food waste. The key to determining if a preserved egg is safe for consumption depends on how it has been stored and the quality of the preservation process used. When eggs are properly preserved, the risk of food poisoning or any type of contamination is significantly reduced. One of the simplest and most common methods for checking egg freshness is the float test. This test is based on basic principles of density and buoyancy. As an egg ages, the water content gradually evaporates through the pores in the shell, creating a larger air chamber inside the egg. This makes an old egg more likely to float in water. The float test is performed as follows. Fill a container with cold water, place the egg in the water. If the egg sinks and stays at the bottom, it means it is fresh. If the egg sinks but stands upright, it indicates that it is a few weeks old, but still safe to eat. If the egg floats on the surface, it is no longer in optimal condition, and it is advisable not to consume it. This test is especially useful when eggs have been preserved for long periods, as it ensures that the preservation process has been effective and the egg is still edible. The importance of sustainability, self-sufficiency, and food waste reduction lies in the growing need to preserve the environment, ensure food security, and improve the quality of life for current and future communities. These concepts intertwine, creating a model of life that minimizes negative effects on the planet and encourages a more rational and conscious use of resources. In this sense, the sustainable and traditional practices of the Amish community stand out as valuable examples that offer lessons applicable to our daily lives. Sustainability, a commitment to the future. Sustainability is based on the responsible use of natural resources, ensuring that future generations can also meet their own needs. The Amish, with their rejection of modern technology and adherence to traditional methods of cultivation and production, achieve a harmonious balance between humans and the environment. They practice crop rotation to maintain soil fertility and employ natural fertilizers that reduce reliance on harmful chemicals. This not only protects biodiversity, but also prevents soil degradation, a growing problem in modern intensive agriculture. The Amish also tend to use renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power, on a community scale that allows them to meet their needs without compromising the environment. This inclination towards the use of clean energy is an example of how sustainability does not depend solely on advanced technologies, but also on responsible and conscious attitudes towards the use of resources. Self-sufficiency, the key to resilience. Self-sufficiency is another fundamental characteristic of Amish life that stands out for its ability to build a more resilient community in the face of global crises, such as food insecurity or economic fluctuations. Small-scale food production, common on Amish farms, ensures that families have constant and secure access to basic goods. This is especially relevant today, considering that much of the world's population depends on long supply chains that can be easily disrupted by climate, geopolitical, or economic problems. The Amish model of self-sufficiency promotes small-scale agriculture aimed at meeting local needs rather than generating commercial surpluses. By producing what is consumed, transportation, storage, and packaging costs are minimized, and a deeper connection is fostered between people and the food they consume. Self-sufficiency also has an important social component. It reduces dependence on large corporations and favors the development of practical skills such as food cultivation, preservation, and tool repair, which increase the autonomy of individuals and strengthen the community. Food waste reduction, a moral and environmental imperative. Food waste reduction is a crucial component of sustainability, as it is estimated that a third of all food produced worldwide ends up in the trash. Food waste contributes not only to food insecurity, but also to the emission of greenhouse gases, which exacerbates climate change. In this regard, the Amish community offers an alternative based on careful planning and respect for resources. The Amish are experts in food preservation, using traditional methods such as canning, fermentation, and drying, which allow them to extend the shelf life of products and make the most of what they harvest. This mentality of not wasting is key to reducing the carbon footprint and maximizing the use of available resources. In addition, organic waste is transformed into compost to fertilize the fields, creating a sustainable and efficient nutrient use cycle. In modern society, the adoption of similar practices could have a significant impact. For example, better meal planning, proper food storage, and learning basic preservation techniques would help reduce food waste. These small changes not only benefit the environment, but can also contribute to a more efficient household economy that is less dependent on excessive consumption. Amish inspiration for a sustainable future. Amish methods teach us that a more sustainable and self-sufficient life does not imply a setback or a sacrifice of quality of life, but a reconnection with the fundamental values that allow us to maintain harmony with our environment. Modern society could benefit greatly from integrating some of these traditional approaches, balancing technology with greater respect for natural resources. Embracing sustainability, promoting self-sufficiency, and reducing food waste is not only an environmental necessity, but also an ethical commitment to our planet and future generations. The practices of the Amish community remind us that it is possible to live well without compromising resources, respecting natural cycles, and prioritizing collective well-being over unbridled individual consumption. Integrating these teachings into daily life, even partially, will allow us to move towards a more balanced and just future for all. Having preserved foods, such as eggs, is essential for resilience in crisis situations, providing food security when access to fresh resources is limited. If you liked the video, here are more videos for you to enjoy and learn more about the Amish community.